everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation with Kathy Healy. I will briefly introduce her and then I'll ask her to introduce herself. So, Kathy Healy is a CASA appointed special advocate for children in foster care who has dedicated her life to the betterment of her fellow men. She devotes time each week to the USO, United Service Organizations, and she is also a volunteer at a local hospital, food bank, and social committee in her community. But she's also an author. So she writes as Mary Jane Spillane, and I'll be asking you, I would love for you to talk to me about that. Why you use Mary Jane instead of Kathy? So she's the author of three books: A Single Touch, Queen of the Hill, and Nun's Alphabet, and then also Nun's Alphabet for Children, Searching for Your Family and the World. So now, in your own words, Kathy, who are you?
I am a daughter of Irish Catholic parents. I'm the oldest female child of 13 children, all single births, no twins or triplets.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
I am elderly. I am always worked in the restaurant field. I had some college. I married a military man, so every time we moved, I had a job as a bartender, a server, and always in the food industry. I
Yeah.
have four children. They're all grown, 11 grandchildren, and 10 are girls,
Yeah.
one boy. And my grandchildren are in multiple states. None of them live me. I live in a western state, a
Yeah.
southwestern state, and I still work full time. I found
Wow.
time to write three books during the pandemic that we all say, I want to write a book.
Yeah.
The pandemic
That's right.
gave me the opportunity, the time, and the intuitiveness
Mm,
of bringing my dreams come true.
yeah.
I'm married and I am a happy person. I serve the public in the food and beverage industry, and I just love life.
Yes. It very much sounds like it. And looking at you too. I love that. So it's true that everybody says that, or most people do, right? I want to write a book, and most of us don't. But talk to me about your books, A Single Touch, Queen of the Hill, Nun's Alphabet for Children. Why fiction? And who is Mary Jane Spillane?
I will explain who Mary Jane Spillane is and how and why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
Nan's Alphabet is a book legacy to my mother, who had 13 children, grandchildren, 16 grandchildren, and 23 great grandchildren
Wow.
before she passed away. I wanted to write a legacy to her as she mentored and loved and hugged all
Yeah.
of her children whenever she could. They didn't all,
Mm,
she is born and raised in Pennsylvania.
yeah.
So the first book is
Mm,
Nan's Alphabet. It is a legacy to her of the children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren over a period of 75 years
right.
and what she did to mentor them and help them get their confidence, get their way through life, and help them get uh, on their way to success.
Right.
And until she passed away, the children, grandchildren, and her great grandchildren had the pleasure of her knowledge, her uh, love of life,
Yeah.
and her mentorship. So
Yeah.
that's Nan's Alphabet. So it's 26 children, grandchildren, their dates, and how they affected, how my mother affected their life. Nan's Alphabet for Children is a children's book.
Yeah.
It is the same children, but it is with photographs. It is with a graphic artist that I employed, And it's how the children traveled throughout the world, their favorite country, what their travel and their knowledge meant to them as they went through life.
Right.
Some of the children are in their 60s. Some of the grandchildren are in their 40s and 50s. Some of the great grandchildren age in from 6 to 28. Uh, I just feel that her legacy needed to be told.
Right.
So that's Nan's Alphabet for Children. I also have a blog, and it's called Hugalot,
Yeah, love that.
Hugalot. The reason I had that name for because my mother loved to hug,
Yeah.
and it's all about Nan. My third book is
Yeah.
A Single Touch, Queen of the Hill.
Yeah.
A Single Touch is all my interludes with men, women, transvestites,
Yeah.
gay and lesbian people.
Yeah.
It is not a sexual book. It's a book about love, book
Mm.
a book about sadness,
Yeah.
book about happiness, and I think it's pretty much a book about relationships.
Right.
Relationships that are good. Some relationships last one day. Some
Yeah. Yeah.
relationships last 2 years.
Yeah.
And A Single Touch, Queen of the Hill. Queen of the Hill is one of the chapters. That's the subtitle. Now I'll go on to why I
Yeah.
chose the name Mary Jane Spillane.
Yes.
When I was growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania, down the street was a five and dime, kind of like Kresge's or Woolworths or something like that. The name of the store was Spillane's,
Yeah.
Spillanes. It was a hardwood floor. It was a hardware store, but they had dry goods, no
Yeah.
food. This is a very small town in the 50s and 60s. So every Saturday, I got my allowance with my sisters, and our allowance was 25 cents.
Uh,
And we did
yeah.
cleaning around the house. So we took our 25 cents and
Yeah.
went down to Splains, and we bought bobby pins and makeup and
Mhm.
things little girls buy,
Yeah.
penny candy. So what happened on Saturday afternoon or Saturday night when my father went to look for us? We were always at Spillane's.
Mhm.
We were down there standing outside watching people shop, and that was our go-to place, our hangout when we were like 10, 11, and 12. And because I had seven sisters, my father would go on the porch and say, Mary Jane Spillane, come to dinner.
Ah,
And so that name stuck. Not that he didn't know our name, but when he
right.
called, he don't have to call one name.
Yeah.
So Mary Jane Spillane is a name from my childhood.
Yeah.
And I use that as a pen name because it flows.
Right.
And it was a fun name, and I just wanted to have a little bit of integrity and a little
Mm.
bit of uh, creativity in my author. So,
Right.
not that I don't want anybody to know who I am, but I want
Right.
people to have a little bit of mystery.
Yes, which is really always wonderful. It makes me think about life itself, right? The mystery of life, right? Not trying to know everything, but just kind of resting in between that mystery. Yeah, you're about to say something, Kathy.
No, I just wanted to say so that name stuck with my sisters, stuck with myself, and
Yeah,
Mary
yeah.
Jane Spillane is a name all the seven sisters carry through life as a
Ah,
joke.
right, right. Did you set an intention when you wrote these books? What is the goal, the purpose of these writings? I would love to know.
The purpose is a legacy to
Yeah.
my mother. A purpose is a knowledge of my relationships with men. I had relationships with women.
Yeah.
I had relationships with lesbians
Yeah.
and gay men. All that is in the book. So I wanted to give my knowledge of one night stands and
Yeah.
relationships. And that is kind of the legacy of a single touch, but it's
Yeah.
also the legacy of Nan's alphabet is the legacy to my mother.
Right. That's beautiful. I said that off record. We were talking just now when we met here about the single. Of course, I have to make, I will make a comment about your mother's book, this story. It's just so beautiful to carry, to pass that on, the legacy of women's love and the way they love. I have to say that's different, right? Not as a general thing, but there's something about women, the way they love. There's something about it.
It's a nurturing. I think
Yeah,
we're born with it. It's a nurturing aspect of women.
right, right. That's beautiful that you're passing that. And 13 kids, that's incredible. Do you feel like she gave the same love to everyone, the same amount?
I think that she passed it down. Because I'm the oldest, I was given the responsibility if she was changing somebody's diaper or feeding
Yeah,
somebody, or somebody was, falling down the steps or something like that. I was
yeah,
given the responsibility of taking charge over here,
yeah,
taking charge
yeah,
over there, and
yeah,
giving her assistance. I could never
yeah.
be a mother to my sisters and brothers, but I was an administrator of her demands. All I
Yes.
did was she told me what to do, and I did it.
Yeah, so she's very good at delegating, right? That love,
Yes,
those
yes,
hugs.
absolutely.
On your website, it's the opening reads, "Be gentle. Who you touch, where you touch, how you touch, when you touch, and what you touch." So that's very close to my heart, that message, because it's not just a touch meaning it's physical. It's the way the words, it's how we carry ourselves in the world, how we interact with people in every situation. So being aware of kindness and love, is that the main message of the book in the end? That's what you wanted to pass on as a message?
I think my message is you touch with every part of your body. You
Yeah,
touch when you hear someone's voice. You touch with your
yeah,
eyes. You touch with your hands. Sometimes you touch with the words, your tongue.
right,
Sometimes you touch when you walk towards someone, but you also touch when you walk away from someone.
mm, yeah,
And when you touch, if
yeah,
you're in a good relationship, you might walk towards. If you're in a bad relationship, you walk away. So you
right.
have to know when is a bad relationship ending and when a good relationship needs to be nurtured.
Right. Ah, wow. That kind of a lot of questions come to mind. Is that something that we learn as we go, or this is something that you have learned from experience? It took a lot of time to learn. How do we learn to navigate relationships this way? It's beautiful the way you speak.
I think it is part of our DNA, how we're raised. It depends on where you're
Yeah.
raised. If you're raised on a farm
Right.
and you relate to the
Yeah.
animals, if you relate,
Yeah.
if you have a relationship in a camp of some sort, maybe you're sent to camp every summer or something, and you relate to
Right.
strangers better than you relate to your own family.
Right. Right.
Sometimes other people will listen to you and your family will not. So
Yes.
you
So true.
have to
Yeah.
find where you're raised, how you're raised, and who
Yeah.
raises you. Not everybody is raised by their parents. Some people are raised,
Yeah.
I'm a CASA, so I do children in foster care.
Yeah.
They don't come to my
Right.
house. I have caseloads. A CASA is a federal program, and the
Yeah.
federal program is very much uh, in every large major city in the United States. So I'm
Right.
concerned uh, when I say where you touch, it's not always in the home. It could be a teacher in your school. It could
Yeah.
be a person who does your groceries. It could
Yeah.
be many
Mm.
uh, different ways that relate to you, and that person is reaching out to you, and you have to learn to accept it.
Yes, yeah. Wow, that takes a lot of self-awareness, self-knowledge. I have asked the question, is that a sense of responsibility, a sense of let's say justice, fairness? Do you feel this is the purpose of your life? Yeah, I'd love to know the underlying kind of why you do the things you do.
There's only one reason. My mother was a nurse. And when we were
Ah,
children, I have sisters. I have four sisters that are all within a year each other. So five sisters that are within 5 years. And
yeah,
every Tuesday and Thursday night when we were children, from the age of 4 to maybe the age of 8 and moving up, my mother took us to bingo. And we went to
yeah,
nursing homes and we helped the seniors play bingo. And
yeah,
we helped the seniors, and we learned our numbers, and we learned to listen to what people have to say to us. The seniors
right,
don't just want to play bingo. They want to share their legacy. They want to share their
right,
time. And so from a very young child, we were
yeah,
taken to a nonprofit and we were taught to care about others. And that
ah,
happened from age
yeah,
4 on up because my mother was a nurse
yeah.
and her volunteer work, she was a nurse at a hospital, but she would take us to volunteer at the nursing home to give back to people that may not have had, other people in their life.
Right. Wow. So that basically saying that that can be taught too as a legacy, something to pass on, caring for others, connectivity. That's really beautiful. Which has a
I
right.
believed, yes, that I learned how to give back.
Yeah.
And then I
That's
carried it on
yeah.
through my different volunteer work.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Kathy. Thank you. We need more of this people coming from that place, this understanding. I know you brought up that way, which is a wonderful gift, but a lot of us have to learn from one another. This is an opportunity by watching this video or being in contact with people like yourself that we can learn. The a question for you, I have lots of questions, but I want to ask this one. It's the theme of this podcast interviews, this video interviews, the freedom to feel. So the open question is, what is freedom to you?
Freedom to me is not physical. Freedom to me is mental. Uh, as Americans, we anticipate freedom given to us every day automatically. We just assume we're going to
Yeah,
get it. I have
yeah,
been to 128 countries in the world, and I have
yeah,
been to China, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Russia, I've been to other countries in the world that don't have freedom. And when I return to the United States, I think, why don't they have it? It is given to us. It's not given, it's taken away from people. So some freedom is taken away. We just assume it's ours, but it isn't. Freedom is not, there's 7 billion people in the world, and maybe 3 or 4 billion do not have freedom. They don't have freedom of speech. They don't have freedom to where to live, or they don't have freedom of where to work. They don't have freedom of thinking, what can they do next? What can they aspire to? Freedom is delegated from a higher power sometimes, but freedom, you could be in jail and be mentally free
yeah. Right,
because
right,
you are serving your time. Maybe you made a mistake, and your freedom is you will get out and do better. Freedom
right.
is not free.
Yeah, that's a very closing statement for freedom. Freedom is not free. So there's the sense of freedom of the things, the physical body. I'm thinking about the body, kind of navigating this reality, speaking from a spiritual point of view, and then yeah, right. There's a lot that comes with that idea of freedom. But when it comes to feelings and emotions, Kathy, what comes to mind when you think about freedom? What freedom would be?
Well, I was lucky enough this year to go to Ukraine and be a volunteer
Yes.
at Warsaw, Krakow, the Czech Republic. and help the Ukrainians come out.
Yeah.
When they left their house, they left with the clothes on their back, they left everything
Yeah.
behind, and they were going towards nothing. They weren't,
Yeah.
weren't going towards freedom, they were escaping from war.
Yeah.
As Americans,
Mm.
some people
Yeah.
that served Vietnam or Korea or Iraq War, they know what war is. I personally never served in a war, but
Yeah.
people who may watch this and are soldiers and retirees, the people coming out of Ukraine, they have to start over. They have to start
Yeah.
with nothing. When your
Yeah.
hands are empty and you ask for the kindness of strangers,
Yeah.
that's what freedom is, asking for help. I
Mm.
believe the
Mm.
people in
Yeah.
Ukraine who are still
Yeah.
suffering are reaching out to the world and saying,
Yeah.
help us with clothing,
Right.
help us with food. A lot of people don't know
Yeah.
that in Ukraine, all the men had to stay behind unless they had 5 or more children. All the
Right.
women under the age of 18 had to stay behind because they had no children. A lot of the
Wow.
senior citizens stayed behind because they didn't have a wheelchair or power to get to the border.
Right.
And they had to leave behind their pets. They had to leave behind their cuddleness of what meant
Yeah.
a child. The most important thing to them is their own kitten or puppy, and they couldn't have that.
Yeah. Right. You know what comes to mind listening to you about this idea of freedom? Is there a price to pay? Like, what would be the highest price? As you say, freedom is not free, and that makes sense to me. But what is the highest price to pay to be free without imprisoning other people, without hurting them?
I think the highest price to pay is is you're relinquishing something of yourself to give to others, so maybe they can perpetuate some kind of kindness. Uh,
Mm,
what
yeah,
what I'm giving up is some of
yeah,
my freedom to give to someone else so they can move on.
yeah,
The highest
yeah.
price, I'm going to answer your question,
Mm.
the highest price I think you pay is reluctance to help someone to the nth degree that they need. That's the highest price
Ah,
you're paying. And it could
mm,
be a
mm,
smile, but it could be money,
yeah,
it could be a car,
yeah,
it could be food, it could be a train
yeah.
ride. Uh, the highest price you're going to pay is not monetary. I think
Right.
it's emotional.
Ah, wow. That's a powerful answer that I never thought about that way, but it's true. It's almost like letting go of selfishness, that sense of self that the fixed sense of self that I have to be this, to have this in order to be who I am. But then giving up even those fixed ideas of personality, of fixed anything, and just kind of being there for others when they need us and being open to that. Wow, that's a powerful answer that I never heard. I never heard it that way. I love that, Kathy. That's
I think we all come from different backgrounds and we all have different needs that we actually, our
yeah,
needs, uh, we can we can receive from others, and it could be
yeah,
our kindness given back and then they pay it forward.
yes, yes. I love your message. I mean, I know we're just having this conversation for the first time, that
Yeah,
there's so much more that you can share through your work, of course, your books and what you do, and as a person. But it's amazing how much wisdom so many of us have, and that we're not able to express. I keep seeing that with so many people that I meet. There's so much there. With that in mind, actually, I wanted to ask you another question. Do you feel that kindness and love is the world's greatest need at this time, or there's something else that comes to mind?
I think the world's greatest need is kindness and love, but we have to get the people that we voted in that
Yeah.
are our leaders, they have to
Yeah.
have it too. And we either
Right.
have to vote
Right.
them in or vote them out. And so
Yes.
we are looking to a higher power, our governments
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
our schools, our churches, our workplace, all
Yeah.
those things that we spend. We spend a lot of time at home. We spend
Right.
time at work, at the grocery store, at church, uh, and doing things with family, as well as traveling.
Right. So this knowledge that we all have, that we all humans here sharing this space, and basically a family, a human family, but not all of us have this deep understanding of connectivity, of interconnectedness. And that to me only came deeply, which is still a practice of spirituality. So that's one of my, to get deeper into it, to be grounded in kindness and love with everyone that I meet. It became a spiritual practice. So for you, do you have, what is spirituality to you, and do you have a spiritual practice, and do you feel that this is what we need more as human beings?
I think we can have our own spirituality, but we can't dictate it. When we
Right.
try to impose our thoughts, our spirituality on others,
Hmm.
they may accept it or they
Yeah.
may reject it. But
Yeah.
we have to accept the fact that people don't always agree with us. With 7 billion
Yeah.
people in the world, you could be Buddhist,
Right.
you could be uh,
Yeah.
Sikh, you
Yeah.
could live in Iraq and have the Iraqi philosophy of life. You can be in Algeria. Uh, Depending on uh, what section of the world you're from, so many babies are tossed out at life, and they are not given any spirituality. They have to learn it. Some
Yeah.
people never learn spirituality
Yeah.
because they're struggling every day just to survive
Right.
and just to
Hmm.
find food. So, spirituality is a gift that we
Yeah.
give ourselves and we nurture within ourselves. Sometimes we try to nurture others and they don't want it.
Right, right. That's so true. But when we, like, I have a lot of course, spiritual philosophies and so many things that I could talk about. But I don't do that a lot of times on the podcast and even with my family. And but the flavor of that, the practice that I engage in, it's actually to feel more connected with everyone and to pass love and kindness to them. So if they need help, I'm present, I'm there for them. So spirituality is really, it's this reconnecting with oneself. In a sense, I am what you are. There's no difference between you and I, so we are connected
No,
by
no,
this, I
exactly.
don't know, right?
Because I see a lot of children and a lot of adults in desperate situations because of my
Yeah.
volunteerism, uh, I could try and pass on my spirituality.
Yeah.
Their struggle is mental, it's
Yeah.
physical, it's emotional, and when you offer spirituality, they're going to say, "What else are you going to give me?" Because they don't want
Yeah.
just that; they want a burger,
Right.
or they want a
Right.
good night's sleep, or they want a blanket, or a pair of socks.
Right.
So they sometimes spirituality, they close the door in front of you, and sometimes the door
Mm.
opens.
Mm. Yeah, that's a very good point. When we see from that point of view about spirituality being something abstract, like you to me come across very spiritual. And I know you probably don't see yourself that way, but it's ethics.
I actually do. I
Ah,
count
you
my
do?
blessings every
Yeah. Oh,
day.
wonderful.
I count that I'm still alive at my
Yeah.
age, and I count that my children are healthy. I'm spiritual in a
Yeah.
way that there is a higher
Mm.
power, and it's
Right.
allowing me to live my life and give forward.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. That's what I see. Right. It's beautiful. Thank you, Kathy, for being in touch with that essence that connects us all. And you can see that. I know it was passed on as a legacy to you, but that's, to me, that's a spiritual legacy. And Let me go back to a question about your. I have a question about your book. So, a single touch, Queen of the Heel. One of the I read on your website. So, intimacy. That's something that a lot of us don't understand what that is. Even sometimes I'm like wondering in my relationship, what's intimacy? What is the difference between intimacy and sexuality?
In- Intimacy is not just touching. Intimacy is paying attention to what your needs are and what the person you're with, their needs are. So I believe every relation, people say to me, every relationship is 50-50. It's not. It's 100%, 100%.
Mm.
Either you give
Ah,
or you take.
yeah.
Other people
Right,
take,
right, right,
other people
right.
give. And I believe intimacy
Uh,
is emotional, it is touching, but it is actually being in the same place with someone and they want to be in that same place with you. There
yeah.
is a lot of people from birth, they never experience intimacy in their whole life.
Right.
No one hugs them, no one kisses them, no one
Yeah.
maybe give them a back rub, a foot rub.
Yeah.
I believe that they don't know what intimacy is, so they can't
Yeah.
give it to the other person.
Right. Oh wow. So it goes beyond all these ideas that we have, intimacy being sexuality, sensuality, that really
And,
resonates too. I love the way you say that. 100 and 100, right? It's not 50-50.
well, I think sexuality is internal. You
Yeah.
can want to be sexual in the way you wear your hair, the way you wear your clothes,
Mm,
the way you walk,
mm,
the way you talk to
right.
people is sexual.
Right.
And
Ah,
sexuality kind of is uh, a vocal. Sexuality could be vocal, but it could be just eye contact, and that's sexual. Sexuality
right.
and intimacy
Right.
are internal, and you have to develop them as an adult. And I don't think it can be taught. Personally, I think you can
Ah,
learn from
right.
others, but I think you
Yeah.
have to want to bring it into your body and accept it.
Yes. Wow. So in a way, we have to be intimate with ourselves first, creating that environment of intimacy.
Yes, that's right. They're not going to love you if you don't care for yourself. Even bathing is
Yes.
intimacy.
Yes. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Is this something that you're planning, has become, or you're planning to become a teaching, a coaching sessions? Because another thing to pass on, because most of us don't have a lot of knowledge or practices around relationships.
I believe that I teach every moment of every day, every step
Yeah.
I take. I teach when people say, "How are you today?" And I have
Yeah.
one answer: I'm happy to be here. I'm happy
Mm,
to be where I am, talking to you next door.
yeah.
My teaching
Yeah.
is how I live my
Mm,
life. So
right.
I teaching one on one. Now I nurture the children
Yeah.
in the CASA, the the
Yeah.
advocacy program for children in foster care, but I nurture
Yeah.
my own children, my own grandchildren, and I try to nurture the people I work with by
Yeah.
just setting a good example of
Mm,
not talking about others and being kind.
yes. Yes. I love that. What's not to love about all that? That's timeless wisdom to me, Kathy. So let me see. I do have another question for you. So the blog, hogalot.blogspot.com, you have the many of the stories in your book, Nuns Alphabet. It's there. So everybody knows. I'll have those links on this interview profile. And I love the way you have this. It's a statement that you make, an opening statement on the blog. You say, "A small town girl with dreams of seeing the world and learning the cultures. There are 7 billion people in the world, and I want to learn from as many people as I meet." What are some of the lessons that you have learned that you can share today on this interview?
People ask me one question: what is the favorite country I've ever been in 121
Yeah.
countries? I always say Thailand, because of
Ah,
a lot of people there are Buddhist. I am not Buddhist,
yeah.
but I can learn what that culture brings.
Yeah.
I learn what Buddhists believe in family and ties, in giving to the church. Buddhists believe in structure and in devotion.
Yeah.
Devotion to, now, maybe an idol, and we don't maybe believe in
Yeah.
idols, but
Right. Right.
what have I learned? I have learned uh, one story that I have to tell you. I was in Kenya,
Right.
Africa, and I was walking down the street, and this man had a bullwhip, and he was whipping this woman who, he was white, she was black, and he was whipping her, and
Yeah.
she was screaming bloody murder. And there must have been 50, 60 people watching all this. And I'm thinking, why doesn't
Wow.
somebody stop this? And I'm in Kenya, Africa, and I don't live there, and I don't know the culture. And I
Yeah.
walked, and the woman was bleeding heavily because he kept whipping her in the middle of the street. And as I walked across towards her to try and save her, someone put their hand on my shoulder and said, "He owns her. He
Ah,
owns her. He can do whatever he
wow.
wants to her." So
Wow.
it, and she was just like the slaves in America, in the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, and just like slaves in Africa, we have slaves today in many countries,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they have
Mm.
no freedom, they have no love, and they're just living moment to moment, day to day. And to answer your question, besides what lessons
Wow.
I've learned, when I was in Africa, I was in the Masai Mara in the south of Kenya,
Yeah.
and I was living in a tree uh,
Yeah.
at night, so the animals couldn't get to me. And so I learned, when you're up in a tree, how do you go to the bathroom? And how do
Yeah.
you get down?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
they have
Right.
to put a ladder up so you can get down. So
Yeah.
sometimes you're stuck somewhere and you don't know which way is out. You have to figure out the best way that uh, you can exist and still have a sense of emotion and a sense of freedom.
Right. Right.
So they're just two countries that I've learned from, besides Vietnam, Cambodia, which are governed by communist countries.
Right. The listen to those stories, especially the woman slavery and all that. How do you make sense of suffering, Kathy? Yeah, what conversations you have with yourself when it comes to that? How do we come to understand those suffering, deep suffering?
The suffering a lot of times are at the hands of others, and if you can get away from them, and sometimes it's a
Yeah,
verbal relationship, sometimes it's physical, sometimes they tie you to a bed, they put you in a cellar and chain you to the cellar. Sometimes
yeah,
suffering is uh, you can't get out, and you're
yeah,
emotionally drained, and you give up. So some people with suffering, they never, especially women who are abused and in a
yeah,
abused relationship, they're suffering because they take it because they don't want their children to be abused, and sometimes the children are
yeah,
anyway. But it's suffering is mental, it's physical, it's emotional, and
yeah.
it's a lot of times controlled by other people that you let in your life, and you need to get rid of them.
Mm, yes, I agree. Creating boundaries if we can. So, yeah, by listening to you again, another question comes to mind. So, suffering, the way a lot of people make sense of it, the way I make sense is the only way I can think about it. It's karma. But then there's another possibility. The possibility is that this is the human experience, and then there is the possibility to suffering, and then we all can suffer in every way. It's almost unlimited the way we can suffer, like you just mentioned, emotionally and physically, and in so many other ways. So do you try to kind of find a way to understand this, and kind of not in a fixed way, but do you go towards these ideas? It's philosophical, I guess.
Well, I'm Christian, and I believe God gave us free will. And
Yeah.
my free will is I would like to eliminate all suffering in the whole world. And because people want control, there are men
Yeah.
and women who want control over others. A lot of times they want control over an animal, and they make
Yeah.
the animal
Right.
suffer. Uh,
Right.
so suffering,
Mm.
I know I can't eliminate it, but I can do one person at a time and
Yeah.
give them comfort and give them my emotion, give them my love, and maybe it's only 10 seconds. It could be a day, it could be
Yeah.
2 years. But I, I would like to eliminate suffering in the whole world if I could.
Right. Right. So in a way, the it's not even the question of why do we suffer, but what can we do about it, each one of us in our own lives, right?
Kindness. I'd say
Yeah.
try to be
Yeah.
kind to everyone you meet, everyone you
Yeah.
cross, your paths cross. It could
Yeah.
be kindness in a way of if someone is homeless, uh, get them a meal. If someone is crying, ask them why they're crying and how you can help. It's not
Yeah.
always giving them a dollar. It's not always
Right.
giving them money because money doesn't solve the problem because the money
Right.
is short lived.
Yes.
I Suffering is many
Yeah.
things to many people in many cultures. People just accept suffering because they think they
Yeah.
need to because they don't know any different.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's the lack of knowledge. And you also mentioned control. So the being the cause of suffering, the reason why so other people inflict suffering in others. Is that something that's coming from selfishness, lack of spirituality, a lack of self-knowledge? What is the antidote to control?
I think control comes because someone controlled that person. And take
Ah,
a child who is
yeah,
abused. That child most likely will abuse someone else, become a bully because he has suffering in the home. He wants to make other people suffer so he can feel some relief.
yeah,
Suffering is
mm,
it's worldwide, and I think maybe there is portions of society that we can help, but it takes groups, and you can suffer from cancer, you can suffer from
yeah,
diabetes, you can suffer from things
yeah,
that are beyond your control, and you need
yes,
medication for that, and they have research and stuff like that. So there's suffering that is physical, but suffering that there are people who don't get along with their mother and or their father,
yeah,
and because they are suffering in a physical
mm,
way, they're locked in their bedroom.
yeah.
And there's many different ways of suffering.
That's true. And you just caught my attention for the suffering that has to do with control and the legacy of that, just passing on the abuse. So it's beautiful to see that you are passing on the legacy of love, the legacy of helping others, of kindness. Thank you so much, Kathy, for being you.
Uh, I have enjoyed our time. This has been so much fun, uh, and our sharing and our awakeness to each other and how we're so similar.
Yes. Right. Human. It's we are all humans, right? That's see, that's what we need to get one of these days. All of us is the human family that we are all connected. We are all humans. We are here to help one another and kind of see each other. See, I see myself in you. I see myself in everyone that I meet, and that is the work of spirituality in my on my end. But I know that this is possible for everyone. We can all in spirituality simply knowing who you are, just going inside. It's not religious, not a philosophy. It's a fact to me, like that we're all connected. So that's my spirituality.
And I think it boils down to kindness. If someone's kind to you, you can
Yes.
pass it along. Not everybody
Yes.
experiences kindness in their life,
Yes.
and they don't know what kindness is. If you don't know and you're not taught, you don't have that
Yeah.
concept.
Right, right. So it is, in a way, our responsibility. We know what kindness is to pass that on, to teach others by not by teaching in a sense of telling them to be kind, but just being kind ourselves. That's really being the message instead of being the messenger, right, Kathy? So
Exactly.
before ending the interview today, if there is one message you wish everyone who watches this video to take with them, what would that be?
Be happy where you are. Be happy where you are today at that moment,
Yeah,
and try to make the people who are around you share in the thrill of life. The
yeah,
the be I always say I'm happy to be here. I think I said that at the
yes,
beginning of your podcast.
yes.
Share your emotion of the desire to live with others, and bring them
Yeah.
into your happiness even for a moment. And sometimes it's just a
Mm.
smile.
Yes, right. So true. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Kathy. Oh my
It's a
God.
pleasure.
So thank you. I'll have the links, your website links, both of them under the interview profile. So a singletouch.net and hugalot.blogspot.com. Thank you again, Kathy, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.
I had a wonderful time, and you're marvelous.
Yes. Ah, oh my God.
You
So
made me feel
you.
very comfortable.
Yeah, you're close to my heart. That's what can I say? This is my sacred space. Thank you.